So I talk about emotional guidance a lot, and I talk about the emotional scale a lot. So I wanted to make a video that explains what that is and how to use it and why you should use it, not necessarily saying that you should or have to. So keep in mind, all of these tools, so to speak, are available to us so that we can choose in the moment what the path of least resistance is. So it's not that you have to make this fit, but if you keep an open mind and start to use it as a tool, you can understand how when you first use a new tool, it seems very awkward and you have to learn how to use it at first. So don't mistake the discouragement or the emotion of discouragement for the tool not actually working for you. Also, you can meditate and you can directly self-inquire and directly feel. You do not have to go through this emotional scale. You do not have to memorize these. You do not have to use it whatsoever. But it is an incredible tool and it's well worth learning, in my opinion. So most of us have heard that there's 3 stages of grief or something like that that's classically talked about, and how people often are shocked to find themselves experiencing anger and experiencing blame when somebody dies. And the emotional scale very clearly shows that. By the way, Google the emotional guidance scale by Abraham Hicks to find this, and this is what it looks like. But Google it, save it, print it out, and put it somewhere you can see it. And if you journal, it's very helpful to use while journaling because you can more easily see your thoughts that way because you're writing them out. So you can see that down at the bottom there's fear, grief, depression, despair, powerlessness. And then moving up is insecurity, guilt, unworthiness. Moving one up from that is jealousy. Moving one up from that is hatred and rage. And moving one up from that is revenge. Now, revenge, most people are like, revenge? How is revenge an emotion? What this is it's accepting that we may have thoughts, we may that are trying to get revenge. It feels better than simply hating someone or having rage. Now we're trying to plan to get back at them, but that still feels absolutely terrible. So the emotional scale is allowing you to see the emotions without judging the emotions. So if somebody experiences and notices that they're having feelings of hatred or rage or jealousy, and these all together, anger, revenge, are ones that we hate ourselves for, and then go straight back down to a lower feeling emotion, which is insecurity, guilt, and unworthiness. So knowing that feeling better is going up, seeing those emotions, not acting on them, but expressing them through the means of writing, through the means of using a punching bag, running, crying, bawling your eyes out, shouting, talking to someone. All these things are completely safe. And a side note, another thing Abraham Hicks talks about a lot is get out ahead of it. And when you understand this, and when you understand that your emotions are worthy of being expressed, and you understand the power of expression, you get out ahead of it rather than acting out at somebody. So going up from revenge is anger, and then you go up to discouragement, and up from that is blame. And this is where we get really caught up sometimes, because rather than understanding that it's an emotion, we stay in that blame, and we detest entire political parties, we detest people, we cut off relationships, we call people toxic, rather than seeing that it's the emotion. So one of the reasons that this is so helpful is because we're so caught up, we're so vested in this thought or this cause or this person or this situation being the reason why we're feeling this way, that we're unwilling to take a step back when we're identified with that and see what emotion is going on. And so when we glance at this, we're accepting that this is an emotion I'm feeling right now. This is emotional guidance, and I want to feel better. So more than believing these thoughts and more than wanting to be right, I want to feel better. So your intention in using this is already a win. So the other thing is that sometimes the emotion that's a step up seems totally surprising, and yet when you experience it, and if you journal out and watch this happen naturally, you'll start to have a lot of insights and connections and see how freaking brilliant this really is. And so like blame and then going to worry can seem like a strange jump, and yet it really isn't whatsoever. So worry to go into doubt makes sense, but again, when you're caught up in it, might not make sense. And so when we see what emotion we're at, sometimes we have to express that emotion, and sometimes expressing the one up, there's a huge relief from that. So up from worry is doubt. Up from doubt is disappointment. This one I found really amazing because I noticed a reluctance to express disappointment, and experienced a lot of relief from allowing myself to see that that was an emotion, to see that I wasn't actually admitting defeat in my life, that it was an emotion that I could express. And it's funny how we may like demonize ourselves or be unwilling to feel and express different emotions, and in doing so inadvertently keep ourselves from feeling better and keep believing those thoughts that are causing us to feel less than we want to, less than our true nature. So up from disappointment is overwhelm, then up from that frustration, irritation, impatience, up from that pessimism. So often something that I see people doing is just generally going around in a state of pessimism, which you totally should not accept whatsoever. You should accept it and that you feel it, but you shouldn't accept it because you naturally deserve our good feeling. You are that clarity. And so someone in a pessimistic state may pronounce that they spend most of their time in these lower emotions. And so then they identify with being an angry person. You can't be an angry person. Anger is an emotion. Anger is guidance. And so from the emotion of pessimism, guiding them from their focus on their proclivity to anger, or so they believe about themselves, they may miss the guidance that it's simply pessimism, and create this whole drama and create this whole problem about themselves that isn't really there. Again, this is so direct. It means nothing about you. It means nothing about your spiritual attainment. It means nothing about your spiritual journey. It means nothing about your character. It's simply emotional guidance right now. And how forgiving and how freeing to realize that. So up from pessimism is boredom. So truly being bored. Phil said on the forum recently, and I thought it was very interesting, that often pessimism is mistaken for boredom. And so boredom simply feels like boredom. And it's interesting because we often spend a lot of time in boredom as kids. And then as adults, we have like phones to grab and things to so quickly grab. So allowing yourself to experience boredom can be really big as an adult. So up from boredom is contentment. And this is where we've made a subtle, nobody did it, nobody knew it was happening. and we didn't do it, but total massive shift to feeling better. Up from contentment is hopefulness, and now at this point there's very little to say about this because it just on its own just goes. Of course, you can work with this all you want to. Hopefulness, optimism don't work because our connotations of work would be down in the boredom or pessimism range. Optimism, positive expectation, belief. Now, you might get stuck on this wording because a lot of different spiritual teachings will say you should not have expectations and you should not have beliefs. These are not holding expectations or holding beliefs, as in thoughts. They're not beliefs as we speak of them. This is simply the feeling, simply the emotion. Do not get the emotion mixed up. Entirely separate, does not equate here. Up from that enthusiasm, eagerness, happiness, up from that passion, and up from that joy, appreciation, empowerment, freedom, and love. And there you go. I hope this was helpful, and really try it out or just observe. Just simply observe, and then stick it on your fridge, and you might be surprised by what you find.